Well, good morning all. In fact, I have a few seconds grace before, because I have to start the 20 seconds or 20 by 20 process. Great thing about 20 by 20 is you don't have to, it's not going to last for very long. So I'd just like to thank Movers and Shakers for inviting me to be their experimental guinea pig type creature with this new way of doing things. London Finance Commission, why we're doing it in 20 by 20. So let's go. London's economy is part of the enormous Greater South East, London's region, an economy nearly as big as the New York region, the Ile-de-France region, nearly as big as Spain. So it's an enormous region. We all know that, but the power of the economy, never to be forgotten. And I'll have to go on talking till we get to the end of 20 seconds, which we have. I'm going too fast. This is looking at it another slightly imperial way for London, but this is a way of showing how many other cities in the United Kingdom, in population terms, are represented by groups of boroughs. So you can see Birmingham there in the southwest, Edinburgh on the east, and here we've got it as the city regions elsewhere in the country, just to show you how enormous London is and how powerful its economy really is compared with other parts of the United Kingdom. That's not to say how wonderful it is, to show how important the place is to the UK as a whole. And if we then, given that it's inauguration day, move on to the next slide, just to be topical, you can see a number of American cities, including very large ones like Chicago and Philadelphia or Dallas or Washington, D.C., where all the action is today, would fit inside London in population terms. So I've made this point 3 times, now 4 actually. So I'm just trying to remind you how enormously important it is. As therefore is London's tax take. This was some research published earlier in the year by the Centre for Cities, and it shows London's tax take as almost 30% of the whole UK tax take. So as we discuss Brexit and other matters, always remember that. But crucially, it's an enormous amount of tax, which at the moment is mostly collected and used by central government. A lot of it's redistributed to other parts of the country. This chart shows the balance between all the money that's raised in London, the total tax and total spending. In London, there's a big gap, as there is in the southeast, and that's redistributed to other parts of the UK. So London is not only important to itself, but for the rest of the UK. However, its own city government has only one tax, the council tax. There are some moves towards retaining part of business rates, but other countries and other global cities are far freer to raise their own money and to spend it locally. So here's evidence of that. This is an OECD, the major countries' representative organisation that's produced this chart showing the amount of money as a share of all taxation in a number of countries raised by so-called subnational government. In London, the GLA and the boroughs added together. And there's the UK with the great big arrow pointing at it, much less. This is an unreadable chart. Academics love unreadable chart. All it says, London has one tax, council tax, and many of its competitor cities, Tokyo, New York, Paris, have large numbers of taxes, some of them slightly odd. There's some dog taxes and beer taxes in there, but they all have more taxes than London, or indeed Manchester or Edinburgh or any of the other cities that were on that earlier graph. Boris Johnson, remember him, appointed the first London Finance Commission. He's off around the world at the moment, causing, well, I guess that's anyway. And Sadiq Khan, the current mayor of London, has reconvened the Finance Commission, which will be reporting at City Hall exactly this time next week. What's the evidence about devolution? Well, Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland, nations within the UK, all govern themselves inside the UK context. It's not impossible. Other global cities have far more power. There's academic evidence, which we've included in the Finance Commission, which doesn't suggest there's any threat to economic growth from devolution. And we've commissioned research, which is already available online, showing the public broadly supports this. London's been a city region since at least 2000, arguably since 1965. We now have other city regions emerging, soon to have their own powers and mayors. Greater Manchester, the Liverpool city region, Birmingham and the West Midlands, and there will be mayoral elections indeed in May this year to make that real. London won't be the only mayor. What the Finance Commission is going to recommend, and indeed LFC1 did, is that the full suite of property taxes should be set by London, the boroughs and the mayor working together, but also operated so they can be improved. None of these taxes works really well at the moment, to put it mildly. I don't need to say that here. This tells you, again, how powerful London's economy is. The yield of business rates, this was for 2012-13, some work done by a parliamentary select committee, the business rate yield in Greater London is far bigger than in any other city region. So London's got an enormous tax base with which to play should it have more control. This shows you the stamp duty, thank you Savills, paid by a small number of London boroughs, and how much of the rest of England pays the same amount as those boroughs. London has a powerful economy, that's all you need to know. Now we're waiting, good, 20 seconds is a long time. Now, you could devolve bigger tax sources as well, not just property taxes, which is, in a sense, the easiest bit, but why not some larger tax sources, allowing London to keep a share of the growth of the tax yield, but not necessarily to set the tax rates. This would be bigger taxes. I won't go into detail today. That will be published next week. Also, London boroughs and the mayor should have more control over charges for services, including planning charges, inexplicably limited by national government, possibly over small taxes, tourism, public health, environment, congestion charge could be expanded. And then we're exploring rational use of Section 106 and so on. Now, why devolve powers to London? We get a better use of public money, incentives for growth, more balance within the UK system of government, and actually within England, because we've got devolution to Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland, something of a solution to the question of England's capacity to self-govern. What are the chances of success? Scotland and Wales are precedents, and they are good precedents. Scotland and Wales have had devolved power and it's worked well. More accessible government would mean better government. Brexit, if it means anything, it doesn't mean more power for Brussels or Whitehall. And just to stand back from this, my final point, we need to fix UK government, and devolving power to London will be a way of doing this. Thank you very much.